All right, Lisa Marie has her fears out. I'm just kidding. I'm giving her shit because the most common phrase that Lisa Marie says to me is "I'm scared." So that's just our recurring, just our recurring thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see her blush live, or in real time. But I wanted to bring you on in all seriousness because you have built a very successful multi-6-figure business, number one, and your results speak volumes. And I really do think, and I've told you this since day one, like you are the first client I've worked with that really reminds me of myself in terms of the way that you work, the way that you operate, and just I want to teach others on this podcast kind of how we worked through building that vision, because I think that that was really gray for a really long time. And we got caught up in that cycle of kind of chasing money for a little bit. And then we got out of it. And then things just started to feel a lot smoother. So can you first just tell me what your business felt like, looked like in 2021 when we first started?
Yeah, like very different than it is now, but definitely when we first started, one of my main goals, and looking back, I'm like, why was I doing this? But it was, just to just get more clients, right? To scale, to build, to kind of, like you said, focus on those monetary wins, which is great, right? That shows proof of concept. And you really helped me feel confident in like raising my prices and like, getting really solid in the type of offer. But in that first year of business, it was really just wanting to be just, a good fitness coach and to make good money and to, just work harder and get more clients and make more than I was obviously making the previous year, which again were great goals, but I didn't think I had a true vision of what like true scaling would look like, or even like a 2-year plan. It was very much like a monthly revenue kind of, goal setting type of mentality, which helped drive me because, I did, we all like to make more money. But I think at the end of the day, even looking back, if I was to continue to do that for years, like that probably would have burnt me out. But it was also so fun because I was doing what I love to do, right? Like truly coaching, and you really helping me set up those systems to be able to take on more clients and not feel burnt out. And, slowly we scaled a little bit, right, by hiring an assistant coach and all that stuff. But yeah, that was kind of just that first year of focusing on clients, revenue, and being this kind of almost like solopreneur in my business, really.
Remember when you were doing check-ins on Fridays?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. I think someone told me that before I started working with you. And then I was just like, casually telling you my week to week. And you're like, wait, hold on. Like, what? And now looking back, I'm like, that was so stupid. Why was I doing that?
Well, and that was a lot of the big thing, because here, let me also say, because I remember, and you can correct me because I don't remember exact, but I'm pretty sure the month that you hired me, you had just hit like your first like 9K month or something, because you were in the middle of launching a group program that we no longer, use, that funneled into your one-to-one. And you were kind of in this launch cycle, like in your brain, your idea of growing was bigger launches with the same program and just stacking the one-to-one. Like that's kind of what you were thinking. Did you ever think it was possible? And I really don't know your answer to this. Did you think it would be possible to hit a 375K year ever?
I think it was like in my head, I'm like, if I want to do something, I will do it. And so the idea of that wasn't like just totally unrealistic. The idea of actually what that meant, what that looked like, how to get there was nothing I was even thinking about. Like even thinking about what that takes in terms of how many one-on-ones you would need to even get to that point, and like what that actually looks like was beyond me. But yes, I knew if I wanted to make that amount of money, I for sure could. And I did.
And I did, and my job, and I did. And that's one thing. That's why I've always told you that like you have the it factor. Like I have repeatedly kind of said that to you, like you have the it factor. And what I mean when I say that, if you're listening to this and you don't know Lisamarie or whatever, is it's not that I'm saying she has like the it factor on camera necessarily, because that's kind of what I think about, like go back to like my TV roots. But you have the grit, the determination, the drive, the consistency to do whatever you set your mind to. We don't have mindset blocks really, right? There are definitely times you're like, okay, I don't know how to do this. You're very great at saying, hey, I don't really know the question around this problem, but this is a problem. Can you help me like get unstuck, right? And so what we did in the first 6 months was really getting you more time back to scale. We completely revamped your entire schedule, which I know sounds so unsexy to anyone, but that right there took you to at least 5-figure months consistently, right? And then it became, okay, how do we scale that? And I know you were so like nervous to hire a team member, right? And so once we stacked on the OBM and the assistant coach, right? Like everything felt a little bit easier because ultimately I don't remember exactly when it was, but when did we decide that you wanted to launch a course? It was sometime in early 2022, like summer of 2022, maybe.
Yeah, it was very early because like we've been planning this thing for like a year. So yeah, it was around that time. And I think there were even like ideas slowly of that before that, but like the actual, yeah, talk of it like amongst you and I was around then.
So I remember coming to you kind of thinking, all right, what's the $1 million idea? Because for you, I knew you had this assistant coach who has been a great asset to your business, but you never wanted to build a massive team of ACs. That wasn't really the end game. I know that you thought about maybe getting a second, but ultimately that was never like your trajectory to 7 figures. And you started to get to a place where you had about 55, 60 clients and you're like, I don't want any more, but I love helping these people. How can I impact more people? And that's kind of when we didn't have the name of it yet, but Macro Coach Pro was a thing, right? And so I want to talk about how we decided on Macro Coach Pro summer of 2022, yet we didn't launch it until Q4 of 2023, because I know how slow that might have felt, but I want you to walk me through the prep work that we've done the entire last year, because you sold out your wait list in the first 21 days of launching a brand new offer, which I think is really awesome. And that's not always normal because of what we did for an entire year.
Yeah, it did feel slow, but because we had mapped it out and because we were so intentional and because there was like a plan and it wasn't like I didn't ever feel like we were dragging it along slower than it needed to be. And that's where like mentorship is really important, to have someone be that voice of reason of like, okay, this is like the timeline that is a good timeline and we're on track. And like, that also gives a little bit of room for life. But I think in that year, it was first, okay, like what is like the vision for my business? Like, where do I want to go? Because like you said, I knew already what I didn't want it to scale to, which was managing a bunch of assistant coaches. So really thinking about, okay, this idea of a course, how is that going to fit in with, a business that I truly enjoy running and a business that, makes me happy and like is a service that I love providing. So really from like the ideation of like, okay, what could this look like? What am I already good at and how can I elevate that? And then even slowly starting to pivot some of like my content and my messaging as well. Even moving from someone who was working alone in my business and talking about like me being like the face, me being the main coach, me being the person that people go to. I had to shift that a little bit, right, when we brought on my assistant coach. And now it was more of like, this is our program and this is our coaching model. And even teaching her my coaching skills was like super fun, but having to pivot content in that way. And then slowly pivoting content towards like being more helpful to other coaches, which is, essentially what Macro Coach Pro is today, is a course to help other coaches, and working for a good amount of time figuring out, kind of restarting, right? What are the pain points of this ideal client for this course? What are the problems that I'm trying to solve? How can I weave this into my content and balance it in a way where, I'm not just going to ditch fitness coaching, right? And, have that still be the forefront of my business, because this course is a year out and I can't just, give that up entirely, nor did I want to. But also balancing that of like, okay, how do I show up as an authority in this space? And I really believe that taking that time to not only build that content and build that authority online, but also connecting with other coaches in the space and building community without even selling anything, right? Just building good community with other coaches really is helpful. Now that I have this course, it's like, okay, I've spent that time in that legwork of moving in that really slow direction. And of course, like slowly and intentionally building out the curriculum, and, even you and I changing it like different times, or brainstorming different ideas of how it could flow, or, what the modules were going to be. And, even when we first mapped it out, it looked a lot different than what it is right now. And I'm sure different iterations will come out in the future too, but just really being intentional and thoughtful with that, and, not feeling rushed to put it out. And I think with, my past offers or past group programs, there was like, kind of like you said, this like launch mentality of like, okay, got to get out the next thing, or got to, launch this new thing to get a quick cash influx. And this one was a lot more intentional of like, okay, let's actually like build this out, because this is going to be something big. And, taking the time to really not even just have the idea, but talk with you back and forth about it and revisit it each week or each quarter, and really, sit with it and think about how, it's going, and give myself even that time to even create module 1 and say, okay, well, this affects module 2 and that affects module 3. And then, being able to do it that way. So those were, I think, the main points of that year was, that slow content creation, pivoting of messaging, really thinking about the new vision and mission for my business, creating really good community around the offer, and then, taking that time and intention to map out a really thoughtful curriculum.
I think that so many people talk about, like, we're so bombarded with coaches and people saying that they're making 7 figures, 8 figures, and it happened in 3 seconds. And so I think that it's almost the norm for people to just assume that, like, damn, like, am I the only one that's not there? Like, should I move faster? And I think that you hit it, right? You were never like, oh, this is taking forever. Like, but I know that we took the right amount of time to get you the results that you wanted. And while we have definitely spent ample time looking at the granular details of Macro Coach Pro, you and I have already talked about like how it's going evergreen, and like the first iteration like hasn't even started yet, right? Like, I think the future pacing has been a really, really major shift for you as a business owner. So that's kind of what I want to ask you is, obviously things have changed, you've grown, but what would you say has been the biggest area of your growth working together in the last 2 years?
That's a good question, because 2 years has been a long time. So there's been a lot of growth. But in terms of, in context of this conversation, I think one of the biggest things that I've realized is like, similar to like a fitness journey, that almost like that delayed gratification of like, sometimes when even, I went into this with my first mentor, like seeing results super quick, right? And that's awesome. And there are mentors that can get you, results really quick, or like help you get your first client. But it's being patient to understand that, like, and I understand why people do these year-long contracts too, because it does take time. And when you can set a really solid foundation, there's so much growth that can happen. And it's not just like, oh, let's, sign up for a month and see what happens. Like, that type of energy is not needed, nor is it going to be helpful. And so I think my biggest takeaway is trusting in you as a coach, and you trusting in me as a client to implement, and knowing that like it's okay if we have like a year, and I forget how you word it, but it's just so true for our coaching relationship, a year where like, it's really like a like a grow year and a push year. And like, I think our first year together, we did grow my business and we hit awesome goals, and like it grew to be this really wonderful thing. And then the second year working together, I had to trust in you and myself to be like, okay, let's pull back, right? And let's, not make no money or give up all of our clients, but be okay with understanding that we are setting the stage for something that is going to pay off, so much year after year after year, because we have this really foundational year of like growing what we want this to be. And like you said, it could be evergreen. There's so many different, this course has so much potential, but it wouldn't have if it was rushed, or if I expected to build it, launch it, sell it out, and do all that in just like 12 weeks or whatever.
What are you looking into the future? Like, let's just say the next 12 months. Like, what are you most excited to dive into together, right? So you're saying like, okay, year one was like, let's actually just get you some solid revenue so you can breathe, and also bring team members in, because that was really the intention, right? Like, get revenue in to hire an OBM or an AC, right? And have that, right? And then year two is like, okay, we've got this stable team. I can focus on sales and marketing and be creative and know that I can pay bills and take all my vacations, right? And I want to also just say this, if you're listening, because I don't have Lisamarie's like Stripe pulled up, but like, she was crushing multi-5-figure months, okay? But we plateaued there intentionally to get Macro Coach Pro out. So what are you most excited to work on in 2024?
2024 is, I'm excited to take people through this course and actually like have it, like transform lives, which is really, really exciting. When you put a year's worth of effort into a course, it's just like so exciting for it to, just be out. And I think, even I'm someone that's like, how can I make this better? How can I make this better? So every time someone joins, I want to make it better. And then I also foresee, I would love this course to not only just help other coaches, but like obviously have the course help other clients, and, still have like fitness coaching as a slice of my business for sure. I do really enjoy that. I still have a small roster of clients, and I love, helping my assistant coach with her coaching skill set, and seeing the clients in our coaching container grow. But yeah, I think especially for Macro Coach Pro, like at least within this first year, it's just running through it a few times and really understanding how to fine tweak it, get feedback on it, and really show people like how much of an awesome course it is, and like continuing to grow and build it out.
So you are somebody that's obviously, you've worked with other people outside of me. And I know that it's really easy. There's so many coaches, there's so many programs, opportunities, whatever. What do you value most about a long-term relationship with a mentor? Like, why have you continued to stay?
I think any sort of mentor allows me at least to have that drive to keep growing and to like hold almost myself accountable, just because I know that there's someone that like I have to pay each month, and like, it just helps me show up in my business. But I think long-term mentorship is really important, because like same with fitness clients, right? Like you just get to know your client so much better, and you get to know me, and like my short-term vision and long-term vision, and you've understand where I've been too. So you don't have to relearn like, what I've gone through, or I don't even have to, tell you much about my business anymore, because we are actually like creating it together. And that's really unique and powerful. Similar to like a fitness client, if you continue to coach hop, that coach has to like relearn your body, has to audit your food log, has to figure out how you respond to things and certain protocols. And the same goes with business coaching. And I think there's an openness to like, the longer that I work with you, the more comfortable I get with, being able to be vulnerable and like share things. And, not that I think everyone is maybe as shy as me. I'm actually a little bit shy, and it takes me a while to open up. But I think with any mentor, it's like you learn best how you work together, and that just really does take time. And I think that goes very underrated if you're just trying people out for a few months, or, even like figuring out how people coach, even just through like stalking their Instagram is one thing. But when you have like a coaching relationship where we're on multiple calls a month and we're chatting in Voxer, and like, there's just that like community and relationship that you build too, which is really underestimated, I think.
And there's so much intuition, right? Like I know if I don't, unless you're on vacation, like if I don't hear from you, I'm checking in on you, right? I don't typically worry about you because I know you, but if you and I are on a call, I can sense if like body language is a little bit off. I can sense if something is like bothering you in the background, or, we have this dynamic where if I have an idea, you may say, hey, is there another way we can get to that solution? Right? Like it's totally an open dynamic. And I think it's really important to also know that the longer you work with somebody, because I do think that there is a level of codependency in the first few months of a mentor. You hired somebody new, you're looking for them to guide you, right? However, now my goal in the last really year and continuing forward, and this, is to just make you such a strong leader in your business and continue to grow such a strong team that is like ride or die, simultaneously while building your flagship program. And so while you're focused on front-facing client delivery, I'm focused on what Macro Coach Pro looks like in 2026, right? And so I think having that is really nice because that's what my job is, right? You only know what you know, and your priority is client delivery. And of course mine is too, but my priority is, how do we take this and scale so that you're living the life that you want to, that you're impacting the level of people that you want to, so we don't have burnout, we don't hit plateaus moving forward, right? How do we continue to market this so it stays relevant in a saturated space? Like all of those things that you're like, I know I should probably think about that, but I don't have time right this second, right? That's where like I can take that. I can see your brain right now being like, oh yeah, I should probably think about this. See you just like the wheels are turning. But yeah, because I asked you that question because I know that you and I have a great relationship, but I think that so many people measure mentoring in terms of like monetary ROI. And yes, I think that you should make money. Yes, I agree. However, it's not always that transactional. So what is your advice? Like, how do you measure, I guess, ROI from a mentor, right? Like if you'd never increased revenue in 2 years, we would have a fucking problem. But, put the disclaimers aside, like what else are you looking at?
I'm looking at someone who can help me like implement the vision for my business. And so, kind of like you're saying, you're such a forward thinker. And because you don't like, things that I just don't know, but you also know me. And so, my lifestyle, what type of business I want to build. And that's at the heart of everything, because yeah, you could make me way more money than I'm maybe making right now. You could have me doing things to, put Macro Coach Pro aside and just like, get hundreds of fitness clients. Like you can coach anything, you really can, but you know how to coach me in a business that fits my lifestyle. And that's important with any mentor, is that, yeah, obviously you want a return on your investment, but like having that work-life balance and having a business that can support the lifestyle you want is sometimes even better than any sort of financial return if you have a mentor that helps you figure that out. And I think that's important to me too, is figuring out, okay, is this going to be worth my time to even build? Because is this going to be a business that I want to maintain and that fits in with, where I'm at? And with that long-term mentorship too, you've seen even me grow, and maybe like, and change maybe over the past 2 years of, I think our first year working together, I maybe had a little bit, more time, and I had less projects going on, and I had less team members. And now that I'm in this kind of different space of like, okay, kind of like you said, more sales, marketing, have a team to support behind me, my time can be allocated towards different things. And even my goals in the second year are different. And, I've had some family stuff that's taken up some of my time too. And so just having you understand that is and someone who actually cares, not just even understands, but like cares and takes that into consideration are some of the biggest things I look for in a mentor, aside from just like actual like return on investment in terms of financial numbers.
I think money is like usually the last thing that I even look at. I think about even like my relationship with my mentor, and for me, I had to really slow down this year, and our revenue did increase, but compared to the pacing that I have been used to, it wasn't astronomical by any means. It was really maintaining and focusing on client delivery in order to do what we're going to do in 2024. Right. And I think it's so important. You mentioned like how I phrase things, right? And I always am thinking about, is it a build, a grow, or a scale year? And typically they are cyclical. And like you said, I think that I think this next year is you can call it grow or scale, but I think we're growing Macro Coach Pro, right? We're not scaling it yet, we're growing it. And I think 2025 is where we scale it, right? And it really starts to become something that we're selling really consistently. It's very well known. And that's going to happen in the next, I would say, 365 days without a doubt. Is there anything that I did not ask you that you want to share? What's been your favorite memory working together? It doesn't have to be serious.
The ice cream cones.
I think that we need to add that in I don't know where that picture is going to go, but Lisamarie does not have nails as long as mine, but apparently people think her hair is longer than mine when we ask the audiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long is your hair? Let's hold this shit out. I mean, long.
Pretty long.
It's pretty long. It's pretty long. Was that a boob shot on cam?
Yeah.
If you're watching the YouTube video, she got a boob shot. She said she's shocked. Don't listen to her. This girl, no.
I also didn't know this was going to be on YouTube when I showed up today. I literally thought it was a podcast, just like voice. So I'm glad that I'm actually like wearing something.
I'm glad I'm wearing clothes, Taylor. Normally I show up with my like, petals covering my nips. I'm just kidding. She does not. Lisamarie is not like that. But no, I agree. I think it's been really fun. And that's one of my favorite things too, is just getting to know you so well on a personal level too, because it just makes the dynamic so much more fun, right? It just, when you show up and you know that your mentors like got your back, and they're looking out for you, because I've had mentors where I truly felt like it was more transactional, and I don't fault them for that, but there are certain mentors where their job is not to really get to know you, and I take a different approach, right? And so I think like how our dynamic has changed, like from the first 6 months to the next 18 months to now, 2 years, right? Like it just, I always want you to feel like, okay, Taylor's thinking bigger. I can focus on now. Taylor's got me on the long run. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it like in that long run too, you've been able to help like, and even coach me through different scenarios, which only happen in a long-term game. So for example, we've hired a couple different types of roles in my business. Some have worked out, some have not, but there's just no way that you would have been able to help me make the next hire so successful if I didn't allow that time to go through of like, maybe someone that I didn't vibe with. And so just even having, and I don't think I mentioned this when we were talking about like the benefits of having a long-term coach, is like seeing like all the highs and lows of my business and how I respond to certain situations and how I can improve on my leadership and how I manage my team members. And so if it's just like that quick fix of like, hey, help me hire these people, and then you're out, you don't actually have that mentorship to help guide me. And so I even think with like, the newest team member we're bringing on, I'm so much more better prepared because you've seen where I can, where I need more support in supporting other team members in my business. And like, me very well, where you're like, okay, I know Lisamarie likes templates and likes frameworks. And so now you have all that for me. And so I think that's something that I didn't mention, but is actually quite important. And, that's also a return on investment, right? Is giving me that support in the way that I need it after you've seen, me through different, points throughout my business and team member hires and like mistakes that I've just made as I go through it all.
And you mentioned the team hires, right? And I feel like what's interesting about your business is well, except for one person. I've pretty much like tried to give you all of your hires or interview candidates, right? And I think that's like one thing off your plate. You're one of the only clients that I've never said go to Indeed. I've literally, I mean, and which I think is important. And one day we will do that, right? But for the most part, if there's a problem in your business, I'm trying to solve it as fast as I can and try to take the hiring off of your plate, because hiring is exhausting. Hiring takes a long time. And are you going to get every position right every time? Not necessarily, but the people that didn't work out, well, the singular person that really didn't work out, like we can look and clearly assess why. But ultimately, even with your new setter coming in, right? I'm like, yo, here, let's see if you vibe. Okay, then I'm going to help you with all of the onboarding and all of that and the training, which is what we're in the middle of doing now. So I think that's also really important, because I had previously never had any kind of mentor who actually was involved in quite literally every process of my business. And so you know that our mentorship doesn't really have any like boundaries in terms of what I'm willing to do or not do, right? I remember this one time, remember when we were first trying to get a setter, and I was like, well, I mean, I could audit your DMs, and you're like, here's my password. like as silly as that sounds, like, you know, there really is no bound. And I will say, disclaimer, Lisamarie is a private client of mine. Okay. So like, this is not a thing I'm doing in FCA. I'm not doing this for like everyone.
Don't send her your password, you guys.
Don't send me your passwords. But yeah, no, can you audit my DMs? Like, no. But it's been fun. I'm excited. I know we've got a lot of projects coming up. So thanks for hanging out. Everyone's now confused about this ice cream cone situation. So we'll have to
DM her ice cream cone and she'll send you the pic.
DM ice cream cone and you'll get a picture of me and Lisamarie. No context on that. And DM Lisamarie ice cream. DM her ice. She's gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Oh, you said it on a podcast. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks for having me.